Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome, everyone, to the TechBrew podcast, the podcast where we will blend today's world of technology with the aroma of coffee, plus a deep dive into the latest tech trends, thought-provoking discussions, and headlines. My name is Cam, and I'm with my co-host, Emoticon Trash.
Shout out.
Today's topics are drones, how drone technology is shaping the world, plus a little discussion about a billionaire's death wish to visit the Titanic crash site. What do you got for us? Teach us the history a little bit of drones.
So let's go back in time. We're going to go all the way back to 1839. So technically, let's just do a little brief summary of the history of drones and where they came from and things like that. So dating all the way back to 1839, the first unmanned drone, the earliest aerial vehicle in the history of drones was seen in 1839 when Austrian soldiers attacked the city of Venice with unmanned balloons filled with explosives. So technically still a drone.
Yeah, by definition, it's an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Which, that's a very interesting way to have an attack on something like that.
It's very out of the box, very, very genius, very just like, hey, let's take these hot air balloons and put bombs on.
A couple decades later, we'll go to 1917. The first ever military drones, the Kitty Hawk flight, was the first military drone that was made 16 years after the first quadcopter in 1907. It was programmed as a flying bomb that could destroy targets. So from there, swinging on to the hip 60s. Technically, the biggest, I think, for younger generations, older generations, is probably like the biggest landmark in history of the RC plane.
No, absolutely.
And things like that. This was the first
very hot toy.
Yeah, the very first time that remote control drones were made for customers at a reasonable cost. Some were designed for indoor use, but others were bigger and designed for outdoor use. So, in context, for people that don't know, this is something that's been very, very in like probably traditions for older generations. And I mean, for a long, long time. I've seen videos of people having garages, and I think one episode of Pawn Stars, I think one of them actually went to a guy's house, and he had probably like a 200 collection of just RCs, planes in his garage as storage. Like, he collected them as a kid with his dad. He just has the inspiration and collecting them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely something interesting for that. And I mean, still to this day. And I know that RC planes, they have, I think, worldwide competitions, I think, for like things like that, which is just crazy. And probably for younger viewers, this isn't your typical this is like
little
big size
$20 Walmart toy. Yeah, no, these are huge. I actually, when I was younger, I actually had an RC plane. I had a few with me and my grandpa. My grandfather got me into RC airplanes, and we had some pretty big ones. I mean, they were a good size. I mean, you had to hold them with both hands. They were pretty big, and it was so much fun. I remember specifically, I was thinking about this recently, even before we came up with this topic to talk about. I was remembering that this RC plane that I got, it was a whole kit. It came with the controller and everything. It was just a whole kit you put together. It came with a CD that was a video game that was like exclusive to that. I can't remember the name of the video game, but it was like, this was like early 2000s, so it was very basic. It wasn't nearly as good as like Microsoft Flight Simulator, but it was just this little game. You can just fly around the map, and you could choose like different airplanes, including the one that you bought, the same color and everything. You'd fly around, and you'd learn how to. It like plugged in, like your the controller would have like a cable that plugged into your laptop, and you would use that to learn how to use, because an advanced controller. I mean, it had all of the switches, the ailerons, the rudders. I mean, it had
Right.
all of the doohickeys, and it was really cool. And I have been meaning to want to look to research and try to remember what that game was to see if it's even possible to buy it now, just the game itself, even though it's several decades old. It was still really fun. So yeah, I definitely partook in the RC craze in the early 2000s, not the 60s, but I can definitely understand how fun it is. It is it's a very addicting uh, hobby, and they do make very large RC planes and helicopters and jets, and people spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on these massive, you know, just replicate like they people were like will like replicate like the 787 or some jet or whatever. And I mean, they're to scale, they're a scale model, but they are just flying with a controller, and it's like this, you know, giant thing just flying in the sky. It's really fun though. It's definitely a really fun hobby.
But yeah, jumping on to 2006,
Mm-hmm.
the Federal Aviation Administration lifted laws on certain business drone use. Businesses could finally use drones for more recreational uses instead of more military uses. So
Interesting.
I think for a lot of issues is what became of probably the skyrocket of uh, more of the drones that we see today
Right.
that have high definition cameras on
Mm-hmm.
them, things like that. I definitely think it started to become a big issue. I remember at the time when I sound old. I remember at the time.
Back in my day.
But when people started to use them for like either for uh, content videos or things
Yeah.
like that, um, to but the issue was of people getting to the point where they started flying these drones over certain properties that they didn't know about. And I remember hearing
Right.
some things about people, uh, not just at businesses or like neighborhoods, where there's a lot of issues of neighbors shooting them down with a gun,
Oh
or
yeah, I remember that too.
uh, for some reason finding out who they were, like who the person was driving it, and they're like, "Hey, you can't do that. You're on private property, filming this area." And
Mm-hmm.
that started to become a big issue all the time. And I think that's when the FAA was kind of like, okay, for this to be such a big, huge monument with this kind of technology, we're going to have to just lay some ground rules. The biggest thing, uh, jump to a few years later, 2013, Amazon
Mm-hmm.
Prime Air. On
Oh yeah.
December 13th, Amazon released a commercial on a drone that could deliver 30-minute deliveries, but would have to change some federal laws. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something that I think a lot of us were kind of like, what? Like,
Yeah.
deliver to my own house in
Right.
front of my doorstep?
Right.
This is still kind of a thing that they're still kind of working on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of people, it's like, yeah, I'd rather just have the person in the van come and deliver
Right.
it to my doorstep.
Yeah. I
So,
noticed. I noticed like whenever like early 2013, you know, Amazon was kind of one of the first companies to say that they want to use drone. They want to try to incorporate drones. Um, I remember there was really two sides to two beliefs when that story kind of broke. One is this is going to be the coolest and greatest thing ever, and two, you know, the other side was like, no, there's a lot of things wrong with this. Because people had fear that, you know, the drones would either crash into your house, drop your package and the package breaks. Or you see an Amazon branded drone flying in your neighborhood. Well, it's going to have something valuable. Let me shoot the drone down. Let me steal that package. Those are things that I'm not sure if they've addressed at Amazon, because they haven't really been too vocal about it. I mean, not like very vocal since 2013.
Hmm.
I do know that recently, though, I had this article pulled up about Amazon. Uh, Actually, on Thursday of this week or last week, they got federal approval to fly delivery drones longer distances without the need for spotters. So before, I guess the FAA said you can have these drones, but they can only fly. So like the distance they can fly, you have to have someone physically watching it, basically its full path to its destination, which isn't very
Uh,
far. Like, how far can you look from one sky to the other? Um, and right now they're only testing, Amazon specifically is only testing drone delivery in two places, in Texas and in California, which are like the two stereotypical places that get modern technology uh, the fastest. They're the two test sites for like anything, driverless cars, delivery services like Uber Eats and DoorDash. They generally start in Texas and or California. So right now, where we are, we don't have this service. But yeah, so as of Thursday, they finally got full permission to use their drones without the use of a spotter. And I assume they're going to take that and they're going to just expand their drone service and push it out as to much people as possible, and you know and let's see what it does. But
yeah, we would just have to see like what's gonna happen, and
yeah,
like how the public is gonna view it and
right.
things like that.
Because
Um,
knowing Amazon, they will try to just mass produce it everywhere. They'll push it out to everywhere as fast as they can.
with drones, I could definitely see it. It can definitely has a few kinks, so it's like it kind of needs to probably go through some more tests and things like that
Right.
for these developers or whomever
Yeah.
or companies to just kind of be like, is this really a good idea, or should we just stick with the semi trucks and the vans and things, and
Right.
you know the also with like just planes delivering things
Right.
and
Yeah.
transportation and the vans, and I mean, maybe these things in the future, maybe with drones, but there's also just smaller communities. I know with that they have Amazon Flex. It's what they're called, is like just have your own
Your own car and stuff.
yeah, day-to-day car. You're able to sign up with them and you could make your own deliveries within like a certain area of where you live, and you just go to a more of a not fulfillment center of a building, but more of a delivery station that they
Right.
have, where you can go get the stuff and do it, and you get paid for it, kind of
Hmm.
thing. But I mean, obviously, yeah, with drones, faster speeds and tracking and things like that to
Yeah.
deliver something within
Within
a
minutes,
couple,
really.
yeah,
Absolutely.
within an amount of time, drop it, come back, and I something I definitely noticed with like just in general with this podcast, I would say I just came to figure out, which obviously I think a lot of people can already tell, but it's just like with us as humans starting to rely more on technology, but it's a thing of technology able to work twice as more hours than us humans are capable of. So it's like
Right.
that is why we're like, okay, well, here's all the technology we're improving on,
Hmm.
advancing all this stuff. And it's like, we wouldn't be able to process working like a 20-hour shift than what, we're not mentally capable for doing that at
No.
all.
No. Not consecutively. No.
Yeah, so I definitely think there could be some good things about technology that could do this kind of stuff and able to
Yeah.
do um, like what if you want to go ahead and talk about it, like with this drone kind of thing with medical
Oh, yeah.
supplies and able to go
Yeah.
for 24 hours.
Yeah. So, as we were doing some research and stuff, we came across this company called Zipline, who actually was founded in 2016. And they actually started out, and this is genius, they actually started out in Rwanda, providing medical supplies to hospitals across the country because, uh, some of the distances between hospitals and these facilities where they can get medicine are hours and hours and hours away. And they don't quite fully have infrastructure to deliver it, you know, that quickly. So Zipline, the company that was founded in 2016, has vastly improved, specifically in Rwanda, but has vastly improved several countries um, with getting medical supplies and saving lives. Ultimately, there's some statistics from the Zipline website. They've proven to get 51% fewer deaths from postpartum hemorrhaging in hospitals. So far, they're in over four. They service over 4,000 hospitals, and I think that's supposed to go even more by the end of this year. 96% of providers report increased access to vaccinations and medicines in their local area, and then it's 100% emission free because they're fully electric, battery powered aircraft. And we were watching this video that we'll put below in the comment of how fast these drones are. And I mean, they literally, we watched this video, and their whole entire process is literally 90 seconds. They will literally get in a request, an order for a specific blood type, specific medication, syringes, whatever. And within 90 seconds, they will have that supply, wrap it up in a box that's secure, put it on this drone, launch this drone at 65 miles an hour in a third of a second, and literally within 90 seconds it's at the hospital where it needs to be, specifically within Rwanda. It's at a specific hospital that it needs to be in 90 seconds.
It's insane.
And it's proven. I mean, there's analytics to prove that it has increased people's livelihood, and people have actually lived because they got their medication in 90 seconds and not 4 days.
Like actual, yeah, testimonies of these people. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was looking up Zipline, and they're actually in several other countries now. They're in Japan, they're in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana. They're also in the United States. They're in North Carolina, Arkansas, Utah, California, obviously. And I don't remember when it was, but they recently have transitioned from, well, they're not transitioned. They still do the medical stuff, but they've also added drones. They've designed drones that are a little bit different use case, but they've designed drones for like retail. And in certain stores, they do kind of what Amazon does, but they work with retail stores in specific states, like kind of smaller retail stores that don't have national chain coverage, to
Yeah.
to provide retail supplies, and they do restaurants as well. But they kind of are the biggest, like, retail and fast food, like kind of like a DoorDash. They are like the first DoorDash drone delivery service in a smaller scale. No one is currently. I don't think anyone has any operating drones that are doing fast food right now. At least not as big as Zipline is doing. With Amazon, they're specific to Amazon deliveries. They don't necessarily pull from other stores and stuff like that. Whereas Zipline is trying to work with a multitude of people to provide supplies and food to people who order. Um, but yeah, I mean, we were watching this video, and I mean, it's just fascinating how it all works. I mean, just how fast they are, the technology behind the drones, how quiet they are. You would think one of the things that's mentioned in the video that we saw is You would think bigger the drone, the louder it is. And generally that's true. You have a giant aircraft, it's going to be loud. If you have a giant RC airplane, it's going to be loud because that's the weight of it. But these drones are so lightweight, and they've Zipline in particular has developed an interesting system of blades for their propellers that has reduced the decibels of their drones, and they're so quiet. I mean, they're not like silent, but they're with a full payload. They're so silent you would barely hear them if they were flying over your house.
They compared it to like a common white noise kind of sound that
Yeah, it's just like a
your
hum. It's like
brain doesn't really process it that way.
yeah, you don't even realize what it is. If you weren't looking at it, you wouldn't know it's a drone, and you wouldn't know it's in the air several feet above you, which could be dangerous. If someone also develops that technology for nefarious reasons, that's dangerous. But in this case, Zipline is doing good. Um,
For sure.
they're providing services to people who can't uh readily get medication and stuff, and so I think that's really really cool that they're providing those services.
I think for what really caught my attention about when we were watching was for this company to obviously do so many tests, so many just runs with the very small projects they had to do, and then upgrading,
Right.
and for them to make I can't remember, I think it was like 1 million they've deliveries, and they've only had like one recorded issue that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But besides all that, it's been phenomenal.
Oh yeah, yeah. That Zipline service, yeah, it's 24 hours. They do, especially in those countries that really don't have accessible medications and blood and all that for hospitals. They work around the clock, 24/7, every 90 seconds. Every 90 seconds of every 24 hours, there is several uh, drones that are out there going to hospitals, and they use AI technology to map out the area, know where to drop off, and know when to turn around and come back. When they come back, is they've got a system that's very much kind of like the system that jets on battleships have. They have the hook that comes up and catches them as they're flying. So as they're going 65 miles an hour, they have a little string that goes across that just hooks them and slows them down, and then they land into a net, and then just pick it up, put another box in it, turn it back around, and shoot it back out.
What was about the other one that kind of just does more like the medication or delivery kind of things, the other different drone?
The smaller one that does like the food deliveries.
Yeah, the smaller one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one is I'm not sure where they're testing that. I think that's mostly in the United States where they're testing that. But it's just a little tiny drone that has like a compartment inside of it that drops, and it has a package in. It can hold up to like 8 pounds of whatever you order, whether it's retail or whether it's food. Um, but yeah, I mean it's the same thing. It's different. It's drone technology, but it's same company, but they look a little differently. They look more like traditional, like current drones look like. These the medical ones that they're using in Rwanda and Ghana and everything. They look more like kind of like foam RC, like the giant foam RC airplanes, not RC, but like the foam like giant airplanes that you had as a kid that would fly and then come around and hit you in the
Yep.
face. Yeah, that's what those look like. But they have a little compartment that they open up that they're able to stick a package in, close it up, lock it, and with their other service, they have a 10-mile radius of service. So any restaurant within a 10-mile
Mm.
radius of your location get direct up to 70 mile per hour delivery with no stacked orders.
Well, yeah, just the wonders of our world and how things have progressed to such
Oh, there is a map of
phenomenal airborne things like this kind of stuff and what we're capable of doing
it.
and what we might be able to venture if drones were able to go underwater.
Yeah. I actually had a better transition that I want to say, and we'll keep this in because it's funny and it's humorous.
Okay.
But
Go
what I
ahead.
was going to say to transition to this next story was something along the lines of the one big problem that drones have always had is that at some point they lose battery or they crash into a tree. You know what also crashes? Submarines, as it's happened before. But yes, we do have this story that I thought was interesting. It is tech related. There is another person, another billionaire, who is wanting to explore the Titanic crash site. And, we've already seen it happen once, and it didn't end up too well. Now, there have been several, yeah, there have been several people in the past who have visited the Titanic site in submarines and been fine and everything. James Cameron, one of the most famous directors, uh, most famously made the movie Titanic, has visited the Titanic site many times. I don't know what submarine he uses, but he uses one that's actually been tested and is an actual like licensed submarine, and it's certified and it works and it's designed to withstand the pressure, and it's good. It's also not being controlled by a generic game controller. This guy, Larry Connor, is the billionaire who owns something called Triton Submarines, states that he is wanting to he is wanting to go on a voyage to the Titanic sometime in the summer of 2026. So he hasn't fully built the submersible yet. Can't find it, but he even had mentioned to the guy who owns the submersible that here's the issues you're gonna have, and then that guy did not take his advice, and you know where that went. But yeah.
Well, I will say, just to clarify, for let's say our older audiences that
Mhm.
technically don't understand for the control part of it,
Oh yeah,
this is literally kind of in a way, this is basically what they used.
yeah, to control a submarine.
A submarine.
It was a Bluetooth game controller. The submarine was controlled via Bluetooth, which I'm all for modernization of technology to a degree. Bluetooth, NFC, near field communication, tap to pay, whatever. Those are all things that have improved our life in some degree. Bluetooth's been around forever, since like the 90s. But a submersible, you might as well
You want it.
fly a
You,
plane with a VR headset. I mean, I'm sorry, but like,
like I said earlier, I said it's like specifically going out to space, and the only thing that you're controlling on either satellite, space station, whatever,
right.
it's like controlling it with just a TV remote.
Here's my Roku remote. Let me turn the ISS around. That's not how that works. But like, can you imagine you're sitting with like a Nintendo Switch controller, just like one of the joysticks flipped this way because you can play like single player mode or like multiplayer mode, and you're just like, yeah, let me just turn the spacecraft 37 degrees to the west. Oh look, I lost connectivity, and there's the sun. Like, you should have hard
Oh,
for anything that is as big as a submarine, even a personal submarine, or anything as big as an aircraft, spacecraft, anything like that. The controls for said device should be hardwired into the device. But
that's taking. You know what's interesting? It's like looking at the differences of a casual being out in a field with an RC plane,
right,
and that's what you're controlling.
yeah,
And then technically, I mean, yeah, I know it's Bluetooth, so I know it's totally different, but it's like in a different way. It's kind of like an RC submarine.
It's basically an RC submarine.
No, underneath water, and then
Like 3,000 or 3,800 meters below the surface.
that's crushing depth. That's
Oh,
how
absolutely,
just
absolutely.
that's how the ocean works. It's like
That's how the
you're
ocean works. Da, 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 da.
yeah. The
I
more
like
you
that
know.
phrase. The more you know. But
It's
yeah,
I hate to say it, and I'm probably gonna sound like a very bad person, but for them doing that with this thing in the past, and for
mm-hmm.
them to go down that certain amount of depth
Mm-hmm.
with that controller and that amount of time, and then also I think it was for a brief moment, but losing connection
Mm-hmm.
with the I think it was like a couple like Marines or something, or like some other type of like connection they were talking to. And to lose connection, I remember hearing on the news when they said they lost connection with them.
Yeah,
I'm like, they're done. They're they're
pretty
gone.
much.
Like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but there's no way.
yeah.
And shortly after, like, I don't even think it was that long, 2 or 3 days later, they announced that they just announced them dead or
Yeah.
deceased.
And they found the wreckage though too. They did find the wreckage. Some
They
pieces
did,
of
yeah.
it. And see, here's my thing. Like, I'm all up for. No, I'm not. I actually don't like the ocean. But as a science, I'm all up for exploring the ocean. It's commonly said that we know more about outer space than we do the ocean, and that's very true. Uh, so I'm all up for the science of exploring the ocean. And in my eyes, if you are going down to any historic wreckage, like the Titanic or planes from World War II, whatever, if you're not going there for scientific purpose, if you're just going there because you've got the money to do it, that's stupid. Like, I'm sorry, but like, people should go down there should be people who are wanting to legitimately study it, who have equipment on their submarine to study the crash, to analyze it, to take pictures for scientific purposes, to recreate, to be able to rebuild the ship and try to 3D render how it crashed and what it would have looked like. In my opinion, he's taking a lot more safety into consideration. I don't think his submarine will be controlled by a generic game controller, but we'll have to see. Like he said, he even stated that it wasn't even going to be ready till like 2026. So he's got a few years. So, maybe in that time he changes his mind. Who knows?
Along the lines like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
we know a very big chunk of what space is and what
For the
somewhat
most
of
part, yeah.
other planets look like,
Mm-hmm.
but we still don't know a huge percent of our ocean on this earth,
Right. It's like
which
10% or something. It's something ridiculously low that we actually know about.
and we know is something very dangerous that we're still just being the daredevils that we are and
Mm-hmm.
trying to um, do the most dangerous thing in the world and to go to the bottom depth. And that's what terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not a big fan of the ocean.
No, neither am I. Or really in space, but I would take space over the ocean if I had to choose.
Oh, for the both of us? Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I would go on a rocket in space,
Oh,
and
yeah.
but ocean? No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. But yeah, we'll just have to see. Going back to like the drone stuff. We'll have to see
Yeah.
how that gets incorporated into our lives. If it even does, if it becomes a mass system, mass technology that's commonly used, and and if it legitimately does help the environment, I'd say why not? There's a lot of logistics I'm sure they're trying to figure out still that they haven't. Like, how do you prevent someone from shooting it down? I mean, good luck. Unless you make it armor plated, uh, then you're talking military. Military, we didn't mention, but military does have drones. But they've got drones that can do destruction. But
You know
commercial,
what?
hmm
I'm sure they took some notes on
right,
1839 things, so they were like, "What if? What
right.
if?"
What if
Yeah.
we drop some? Yeah, probably. But
Um.
when it comes to commercial use of drones and retail and it becoming part of civilization's day to day life, we'll have to see.
mm,
We'll have to see what other companies get inspired to create drones and there might be use cases for drones that we haven't even thought of that aren't related to those things. Delivering other things or well, one of the things that I just randomly thought of was like the drone light shows, like they do with like the Super Bowl. They like that's
yes.
one thing that I realized. They got those drone shows, which they're using those to replace fireworks because fireworks boom in the sky and they can be loud and annoying. So I've noticed a lot of major sports companies have been using drone light shows, and honestly, you can get better results to a degree. You can get better looking images for sure with drones, and you can recreate some pretty cool things.
Which it can also do like 2D and 3D.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
Just
cool.
is mind blowing, and yeah,
Hmm.
and I think Disney is investing in a lot of that.
Yeah,
Um, which they're like, looked up, here's our wallet, take it. You know.
basically, basically. I did
Um,
have I did have one thing I was going to mention real quick
yeah,
that I just thought of. It is slightly off topic, but it's a short thing. Do you know what company or what entity is the largest purchaser of explosives? Just in general, just think of all types of explosives, including fireworks. What company is the largest purchaser of explosives?
IBM.
No, and it's
What
not
is
the
it?
U.S. It's not the U.S. military. It's Disney. Disney spends more money on their fireworks show than the entire budget of the U.S. military's explosives. No, that we know of. Obviously, I don't know if we legally have a breakdown of every single penny that gets spent in the military. But yeah, I read that fairly recently that the Disney spends more money per year on explosives, aka fireworks, than the U.S. military. I mean, you think about it. You go to Disney World, Disneyland, every night is a fireworks show, and it has been for 50 years. Yeah,
Well, alrighty. I feel like that
yeah,
was a pretty interesting episode. I like
yeah. I
that.
liked it. Yeah, and we'll definitely if any more drone tech comes out or anything, we'll definitely probably make a sequel to this and stuff.
Yeah.
Drones are kind of like the new RC. They're like the new hobby. People fly drones all the time for hobby and competition and stuff. So it's really interesting to see the history of where it started way back in the 1800s to where it is now. I imagine people back then, their mind would be blown if they saw drones, what they look like today. It's like, yeah, I can control this drone with my mind. That's not a thing yet. But who knows? It might be.
It could be.
Right? It could be.
Uh yeah, for those watching, yeah, just stay tuned for more.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get some more insights and updates,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Breaking news. For those watching and aren't subscribed, what are you doing?
Shame. You know what? I'm just gonna. No.
You
Just
know
kidding.
what?
No violence. No violence. Uh, but
But
yes,
yeah,
if you like what we're doing, consider subscribing, please. It helps us out a lot. It's free for you. It doesn't cost you a dime. You
it's
know,
free.
it's free.
It's free.
What the heck, people? It's free. But yeah, then you get to see two idiots just talk it out amongst themselves for 45 minutes. No, I'm kidding. We're not idiots.
I'm
But
not an idiot. All
anyway,
right.
if you liked what you heard today, consider giving a subscription or a like or a comment, something to indicate that you like what you saw. Right.
Yeah, I know where you live, Jason.
If you don't subscribe,
Right.
I will find your IP address.
Right. Never mind. I know it by heart. Remember, folks. please drink caffeine, any sort of caffeine beverage in moderation. Don't get addicted to it. It is a chemical. You can't drink too much, especially coffee. Coffee is very high in caffeine. Drink coffee in moderation, and don't believe everything you hear on the internet. And there we go. Hey.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I'm gonna